of clarity and a lot of things that I was in receiving mode to speak about, to bring forward to you, and even in my own personal life is, the energies at play. And yesterday could have been kind of confusing for you guys because Mercury was doing its dance, Gemini's got its thing going on. So it's like 1 minute you might have felt doing this, and then the next minute you felt like doing this, and then the next minute you felt like not doing any of it. So there could be a lot that was going on there energetically with you over the last few days. All good things. So we're on the precipice of what people are all talking about, which is the 8-8 portal. And this is huge because what we're diving into is, remember, we have a lot of things that have been coming up to play. And for a while, the divine has been speaking to me, telling me that, and I remember that a lot of you may remember this saying and this transmission that I received, is that there was a point in time when you were reaching for knowledge, when you were reaching for wisdom, when you were reaching for the spiritual light of the divine, and no longer are you reaching for that. It's the becoming, it's inside. And so now you can see that, you can feel that. And one of the biggest things that God gave me the other day was, God surrounded me around a bunch of dreamers, yet they're non-believers, and then they're non-believers, and God will show them the truth to become receivers. And there was a spoken word that came through me a while ago that was, in order for people to feel God is real, they have to be able to perceive something outside of themselves in order to receive that connection of eternity and reflection. And there is so much spiritual confusion and spiritual identity loss and intrusion that people have no idea that the divine and what it truly is a feeling, because they keep on reaching for something outside of themselves. And so in religious context, things are going to be really revealing to people. All right. So we are not here to chase the light any longer. We are here to become it. And I spoke a while ago about what they showed me with Yeshua is Yeshua was of the Christ, and he was in his becoming the Christ. And when they said to me, that made perfect sense. We are no longer in a time where we have to reach for the spiritual light, where we have to reach for the knowledge, where we have to reach for the wisdom. If we understand what's going on, it's inside the prism. To give you a beautiful example, and this was the cutest thing ever, and this is just how God works in my life. And I just want to give thanks and give praise for me being able to lead people back to the divine. So I got to have a beautiful interaction with my mother-in-law yesterday, and it was gorgeous because she came home from a trip, and I was talking to her, and she came home from a trip, and it was great. And I was having this conversation with her, and she goes, "You mean that I'm the blessing?" And it just like hit her, And I mean, this is a beautiful elder, and it's kind of cool to be able to help an elder remember themselves and remember, pieces and parts of themselves, not only in heritage and tradition, with all due respect to her lineage and the Tayo natives, but the reflection of her being able to understand that, and the cuteness of the realization of the inner child seeing things through the eyes, in a completely different way. So there's that type of realizations. You're in the becoming. Now everything is changing around you, right? And right now we have to remember that anchoring the light. So you're anchoring the light, heaven in the age of artificial light. Okay, now we're gonna break that down because it's the age of Aquarius. All right, it's the age of Aquarius. So there's going to be a lot that's going on right now. We have the full moon in Aquarius in a few days. We've got this beautiful gateway that's occurring, and everybody is on this huge manifestation trip. And I've been in divination with the divine about this. And I think one of the messages, to be honest, that the divine is bringing through per the request is a lot of people are going to be manifesting on a selfish aspect. And I don't think a lot of those things are going to come to fruition. because of the selfish aspect that comes with it, the want, the greed, the desire, the need, right? Because if you understand the authority in which you carry, you understand that you are the commander of that, and you don't have to go to a universal aspect of pleading and asking and that type of stuff. When you sit in that meditation, in that prayer space, in that divination, you are the one that is weaving the threads. The divine is asking you to command the authority. And it's not out of seniority. It's not out of glory. It's about you understanding the power of what you have to work with the universal energies. Hey, Mama Briggs. And this is the feeling. Everybody has the knowing, yet nobody knows where they are going. And that comes from a transmission that was received to me in Texas in 2021 that was said, different maids for different plays make way for different shades. Everybody thinks they know the knowing, yet nobody knows where they're truly going. It's the feeling, it's the belief. That was the reach. It was the understanding at those points that nobody had a clue what they were doing, just like you. Nobody had a clue how to. Everybody was just trying to figure it all out. But you kept reaching for something outside, out of doubt, out of personification, out of religious context, out of misidentification, out of false narratives, out of disrespect to oneself, because you had to understand that you were a pure representation of the very thing that you come from in reflection. Because why? The divine wanted to experience itself. So this is a feeling. Everything that religion teaches you is from the monkey mind. It's from the brain. It's from an outside paradigm. It's not from the inside that is intertwined with the truest of the divine. Because the divine is a feeling. It's a knowing. It's an omnipresence energy that is always moving, always shaping, always foregoing. And so as you see these constructs start to deterialize, you are having to stick in sovereignty and belief and feeling. We've always said, in order to conquer your world, you have to conquer your mind. The war was on the mind and the prize was your soul. The soul was your prize, because if you couldn't remember the fragments that you have and that you carry and that you hold inside, you couldn't command the energies to change, to align with universal truth. But because you are truth seekers, not truth meekers, you chose to continue to ask and rise and go down and go up and go down and go up, is what they're showing me countless of times. So there's a lot of forward motion. There's a lot of realization. There's a lot of clarity. And this is what's breeding the passion and the certainty for you to move into, step into what God is doing through you. Okay? So here's a lot that you're seeing right now. And things are going to be changing where I'll be way more on YouTube than I will here, because it's such illusions wrapped in inspiration on this app. And there are multiple people that I speak with on days that are just like, I can't. And I'm like, I get it. I'm right there with you. There's a difference between being seen and being revealed. Artificial light shines on you. The divine shines through you. It's the fruits of what you bring to the table. Okay? You guys are not just in a very celestial times. These things were initiations. These codes, these reverberation, the electric charges of the energies, right? The planetary things that are going on. These are where they're initiations. And so the last few days might have been confusing. The last few days you might have been feeling like you've been overlooked or misunderstood or rejected. okay, in multiple different ways. It's because you weren't made for the algorithm, and you're made to break through the algorithm. The algorithm, if you think about it this way, the algorithm is your altar. The social media platform is your altar. With all due respect, you were meant to break through the algorithm. So for those of you that are healers and so on and so forth, understand that you're breaking through the algorithm. And those that need you will be brought to you. The divine will make sure that they're brought to you. So as you try to break through, okay, these illusions that are wrapped, okay, in the false light right now, in inspiration and things that seem too far off of the truth for you, whatever that is that you have and you connect to, and what you receive and what you perceive and what you believe. Because when you're speaking about these things that you're breaking through, it's like the last layers of things that you are having to get through. It's basically like you see the performative performance of spirituality. And there's a lot of things that are going on in the religious prophetic community that I just don't even choose to get myself involved with, kind of like witch talk. And it's the same cycles, and it's the same recycles, and you can see the patterns of everything. So understand and know that you're to break through the algorithm and break through the codes. You're coming from a divine knowing rather than an artificial intelligence. Okay, do you know how many pastors and prophets go out of their way to reach and to pay for sermons and so on? It's disgusting. It's not coming from the inside. And so there's a lot of talk about how many prophetics are orphans, and if they're not in a church demographic, or they're not underneath the minister, or they're not this, then they're not a prophet. Well, that's one of the false activities. There's a lot of us that were orphans. Okay, a lot of us, for many different reasons. All right, and so remember when I said God's doing a new thing with its prophets, and watch them, because they're going to be moving more in a physical way rather than part of the social media way. But you're here to break through the trends. You're here to break through the AI mimicking, the sacred gifts that were God given and God inspiring. And that's part of the difference, right? There's a difference between being seen and being revealed. Artificial light will shine on you, but the divine shines through you. That's because you're the becoming. That's because that's exactly what you were here to do, is remember the spiritual identity in you, here, the soul, not just as one piece or one demographic, but the whole, the mind, the body, the soul, the spirit. And once you could learn the sacred understandings of you, I've always thought that if you understood why you did what you did, how you did what you did, you would understand everything about the next step that you take, because it's going to be given to you. And many people have a very hard time getting to that level of the fragments, of the pieces, of they're acting out of different types of spirits. You can see it now. They're acting out of generational wounds. They're acting out of different types of traumatic places versus the spiritual connection of the identity and reflection. So you're seeing a lot of pride and egotism, and all of that stuff has to be dismantled. Okay? And I sat there in connection with the divine this morning, as I always do, and I sat here and I asked God, I said, what if? What if? And of course, God already knew what was in my heart. And I was like, what if? And I had this overwhelming feeling, and I was like, what if that's it? And I'm not trying to live in some woo-woo delulu land, because I'm real practical on multiple different levels. I'll break things down from celestial to generational to spiritual to biblical in multiple different layers. That's a part of my understanding and the way that my brain works. But I said, what if? my question, I'll let you know my question. It was really deep in reflection, because it's where I go. I go there, and that's how I just know, and I find things. I'm very, very theological, very prophetic, very poetry based, and that's just the way I've always been. I said, what if, God, all of these things, from the mothership to the volcano, to the world splitting in two, to the wars, to the infractions, to all of those things, what if every single piece and part of that was the entirety of the distraction? What if every single piece and part is of but a distraction? And I took a big deep breath, and I got shown just so many flashes in multiple ways. And call me crazy. By all means, there's many prophetic visions that I've received of different types of destructions and stuff like that. But to me, those are things that the divine is showing me that are happening in certain timelines that don't reflect where I'm at. If you can relate to that, hit that screen. Because I heard something yesterday. There was I had to chuckle, but there was a family member here that was listening to the Bible on audio. And it said, fear God. And I was like, ew, gross. And my husband came in and saved me right away. Because I literally go, ew, gross. And right at that point in time, God knows, man, God just put him right through that door right at that time. And I was like, thank you for saving me. And I was like, no, the God that I know and of my understanding, there's no fear, there's no control, there's no demanding, there's just is. There's peace, there's resonance, there's balance, there's harmony. And I'm not some delulu woo-woo that is not aware of destructions and distractions and things. But the whole point is, if I pay attention to those things, it doesn't allow for the divine to come through me to show me what the divine is doing truly in entirety. That shit's provoking. That shit's the spirit of wrath to me. That shit's the spirit of confusion. To me, that's the illusion and the intrusion upon humanity that tries to keep pumping through like a fucking IV. Excuse my language, because that shit pisses me off, man. And it's disgusting to me. I have seen so many prophets call out harm and neglect and distraction and death and all of this, and not one of them has happened. And I'm waiting, and I'm like, well, that's funny. I've said to watch different states, and things have happened in those different states. But there's nothing here that is literally giving me, besides the shakeups and the makeups. Gaia's gonna do what Gaia's gonna do. The point is that if you pay attention to that type of energy, you're not gonna be able to see what God is making space for you. So let me read this to you, because there was a post that God asked me to make yesterday. And I made it, and it came in notes. And it said this: God told me to open your eyes and watch for the surprise, with the devil on your back trying to cause your demise. Don't look back, you won't realize what I've placed before your eyes. I'm going to say that real slow. God told me to tell you to open your eyes and watch for the surprise, with the devil on your back trying to cause your demise. Don't look back, you won't realize what I've placed before your eyes. Wait for my cue. I'll show you what you never knew. was left inside of you. I have watched and seen all that you've been through. I'm still supporting you, and surprised you realized who was guided to you and through you. And then God told me that God surrounds me around dreamers, but yet they're non-believers. They're non-believers because they don't believe, because they can't receive. They can't receive because they don't understand the truest of authority of God, of the divine, because they think that it's something that is a physical thing outside in a very structural context, to only realize the very thing is what they're trying to connect to is something on the inside that reflects, that they can feel. Everybody wants to feel God. Everybody wants to feel Yeshua. Everybody wants to get back to feeling that, because that's home. Remember when you would sit there and be like, man, I don't want to be here. There's a place that I yearn for in my soul that is home. That's home. It's a feeling. It's a vibration. And so God is putting you in these people's lives on purpose, and in these groups, and in these places, and in these spaces, healers and prophets of the divine, on purpose to make the believers become receivers, because they cannot deny the truth of God when God shows it to them. They may not believe you. They may not receive you, because if they can't receive God, they can't receive you. But trust and believe that God will show them the truth within you. The truth in which they couldn't believe what you were saying or what you were trying to show them. God will. 110%. So that they can become the receivers that they need to become. This is why God puts us in the face of non-believers. God puts us in the face of non-believers so that they, by our actions and by the divine blessing us and by the divine having its hand over us and us moving in flow with trust of the divine and understanding that connection and building that relationship in correlation, God will show them. You don't have to do anything, but keep doing what you're doing. And that's part of breaking through the algorithm. It's you. Remember, you're the blessing. I got to have my own realizations about that the other day too, just like Mama did. You are the blessing. It's the way that you carry what it is that God is doing through you to carry. Right? This is why we also say sometimes your destiny and your purpose is different. Your destiny and your purpose can be different. They can also intertwine, but that's for you to decide. That's your contract with the divine. Yes, there's a lot of opportunities and there's a lot of options that you have before you. You can take heed to what you need, not out of greed, but because you're ready to take a step further into the authenticity of what it is you're ready to receive. You asked for these things. So when God puts you in the face of non-believers to become receivers, that's God's grace, baby. That's God's grace. You don't have to do anything. You just tell them. Example, I told one of the family members here yesterday, not Mom. Mom knows too much. I told one of the family members here yesterday, I said, oh, God just showed me she's stuck in traffic. Oh, no, she won't be home till late. No, she's on her way home. She's stuck in traffic. 20 minutes later, that lady comes running through the door. I didn't have to combat. I didn't have to argue. I don't have to prove my point. God will show everybody exactly where those things are at for them to become believers, to become receivers of what you are or what you do. This is why you're breaking through the algorithm. Don't let social media defeat you in what you're trying to build or create, guys. Don't do that. Don't let that hesitation going, oh, well, because everybody else does it, I'm not going to do it. The way that God uses you to speak through you to reach people is the point in the fact that you're here to do that. And those that need to be in here will be in here. It's very clear. So when God puts you in the face of what you see as an obstacle, right? Or when you're like, dreading the energy to be in that person's space or face, love. And remember, love comes in all forms and all things. But what I mean by that is when they put you in the face of those energies, okay, take a whole step back. Come outside of self, because one of the things that you're able to do now is come from the whole outside perspective, looking in rather than here and keeping yourself boxed in. So that's one of the beautiful things about the energies that we have available to us right now. Where over the last 2-3 weeks, things kind of looked like this, right? It looked squeezy. It looked like things were squeezy, right? You didn't know, you didn't have the answer. So now that energy's opening up to you. And when you're put in somebody's space or face that's a non-believer, a non-receiver, don't see it as a combative space. See it as God's grace, because God's using you as a chess piece to be able to help that person believe, to be able to help them receive God. And that's a part of your job, because you're here to awaken. You're here to awaken people. It's not up to you how you get to be used to awaken those people. You're just going to naturally do it, right? Some of you are going to catch it. Some of you are going to catch that that's what you're doing. Others won't catch until after the fact that that's what they're doing. 110%. So when you go through those spaces, know that you're being used, because it's the age of Aquarius right now. The age of Aquarius is the divine truth. So you're like we were talking about, as they had me come bring this back around. Okay, the illusions wrapped in the inspiration, the performative spirituality, right, that's going on. The love and light teachings with no rootedness, no groundedness, which means it's all happy-go-lucky, right? It's all fucking pinwheels and big old suckers like the lollipop kids. No, there's shit going on. We're well aware of that. We're well aware of that. And we're well aware that the divine will move us where we need to be moved. We're well aware of that. The point is that you are in a place that is rooted and grounded with respect to what is taking place with the divine. So we know that Gaia's rebirthing. We know that she is moving. We know that these things are happening. This is also the reflection of Uranus here that is in Gemini now, that is moving. So there's a lot of communication. It's like, for those of you that are into tarot and stuff like that, it's a form of divination which starts to get you to believe in yourself, to connect to the divine. And you'll pass through that space as you continue to rise, okay? But what they're showing me is it's like the Knight of Swords, which is the quick, fast communication, quick, fast realizations, okay? Or there's somebody coming in bringing you communication that helps you realize something. The Knight of Wands, wands always have to do with fire energy, and they always have to do with your career and your foundation and home. So that means that there's some quick, fast change, communication, okay? But there's some quick, fast change that's happening in that foundation. Now, it doesn't always mean that you guys are going to just like, it's going to be chaos. That's not what it means. It means that it's helping you make some decisions to bring you some type of change in the foundation that brings you more passion, that brings you more peace, that brings you more stabilization. Okay, and that's what you're seeking. All right? So we were talking earlier that these portals are not just celestial, they're initiations. They're initiations for you to be able to do what you do, right? For you to be able to do what you do. Many are being spiritually reassigned. Do you remember when we were talking about destiny? And the transmission, some of you remember the transmission of destiny that came through me. I don't have it with me, but she literally says destiny, you know, she will make what looks like chaos to you only to realize that nothing was lost in vain. Like, it's about destiny coming in, and we were talking about destiny and purpose, and those things are going to merge more as you move into that place and that space. So there's a lot that is happening, and so many are being spiritually, reassigned. It's like God is moving them. It's like they thought that they were doing this, and they thought that they were going to be doing that, and God's going, whoop, nope. So many are being reassigned. That kind of goes back to the message that I was receiving about the divine moving its healers and moving its prophets in a completely different way, okay? Those that are hiding from their spiritual gifts, the pressure is going to continue to show. If you don't know what's going on with your spiritual anointing, with your spiritual assignment, if you need help with that, please reach out to me, okay? That's one of the things that I mentor and do. If you don't understand the prophetic, if you don't understand what is that through you and how that's showing up through you and how to really bring that connection through, you're more than welcome to reach out to me, all right? Whether it's here through TikTok, whether it's through the website, whether you choose to become a member for free to Womb of the Ancient Sun, all right? That is all linked in the website. So this is going, this portal is asking you, are you going to remain hidden? Or are you going to embody the very being and the becoming of the Christ that you are? Remember, we were talking about you were always feeling like you had to reach for knowledge and reach for something outside of you, and you couldn't figure it out, and you're getting all these books and all these messages and all these downloads and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then all of a sudden, it's like things kind of went quiet. And the only thing that was left was you. And yeah, it doesn't feel too weird because you're used to being with you. But then all of a sudden, it's this nuance to this vibration and this energy and this heightening and this elevation, and not just these celestial codes, but the freaking, the Jiminy Christmas, if I could talk. Thank you, Hermes. The codes that are coming off of the sun in the M-class flares that are hitting Gaia 24 to 72 hours later, that you're watching the Schumann go off. Okay, it's basically you are the in-between. You are grounding that energy in from Gaia's tridal sphere, just like you have one in your auric layers, okay? You're grounding that energy in to Gaia, but it's happening through you. You're the electrical battery. You're the charge, right? So some of you are tired. Some of you are all these different transitions going on. The butterfly effect is what was just said. So it's like many are being spiritually reassigned right now. And those that are hiding from their spiritual gifts, the pressure is going to keep showing up, and it's going to keep showing up, and it's going to keep showing up, and it's going to keep showing up. One of the ways that I was able to discern when I was a child a really long time ago, if God was actually speaking to me, is I knew, because there's a difference. There's a difference between of knowing God and hearing God's voice, right? I use the word God because I don't look at it as a masculine thing. I understand the balance of the energy that brings those. All those of you that get offended by the word God, I apologize. But it's the divine. It's both sides. It's the wholeness. It's the oneness within every breath, okay? And so in that energy, what you are able to do is see that you are now reclaiming your spiritual authenticity with these codes that are inside you. And God is doing this for you. You're getting reassigned. So maybe things are being re-advised. Maybe you're seeing them in a completely different perspective, in a new light. Okay? So any of you that are hiding from this, God is going to show you. And when God shows you something, it comes with confirmation. It comes with ease. It comes with no doubt. It comes with no question. When it brings confusion or delusion, you can feel that type of energy where it feels that way, then it is not of. And one of the ways that God always showed me is God would show it to me in my mind's eye. God would speak it to me. And then God would make me feel it. And I always told my team from a very young age, if I can hear it, if I can feel it, and if I can see it, then I know it's of the truth. Because the energies of the enemy are not going to work that hard to continue to bring that message forward. So let's say when I'm in divination, it's not just, it's hours, it's 24 hours, if not more, of reflection. Because literally, maybe I'm going to get the vision, and then I'm going to have more questions, more truth seeking. Not because I have to know, but because I'm understanding, and I'm asking for communication and confirmation. And then later on, I'm having a conversation where I phone a friend. My phone a friend has no idea what's going on. My phone a friend says, and you're going, oh. You know that you have just heard the word through somebody else to you, because that just gave you the voice. So God showed it to me. Then somebody else is speaking to me, but God is speaking through them to me. There's the second piece. Then God's going to make me feel it. Not going to make me feel it once. Not going to make me feel it twice. That seed is going to sit there, and it's going to fester, and it's going to build, and it's going to build, and it's going to build. And then I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to step into it. Why? Because the energy is then present for you to step into. So for those of you that are kind of in that questioning with this spiritual gifts, that's one of the teachings that I first teach a lot of mentees, is that you are going to see it, you're going to feel it, you're going to hear it, you know, and knowing the difference between your energy, other energies outside of you, and the divine energy. There is a big difference. So that's some of the stuff I teach my mentees. So you guys that are hiding from these spiritual gifts, the pressure is going to keep showing up, okay? God is gathering the remnant, not the influencers. I'm going to say that one more time. God is gathering the remnant, not the influencers. If you've been overlooked, if you've been misunderstood, if you've been rejected, I'm going to tell you good. I'm going to tell you good. You weren't meant for the algorithm. You were chosen for the altar. There's a difference. There's a big difference. You got a higher calling. And this is why you're going to break through those things. Okay? Break through those things. Because when you anchor in the light, you're not coming from a hindsight 2020 space. You're coming from an overall space. You're coming from a commanding of a space in wholeness, in oneness, in breath, in word. And you're holding the frequency inside. Because once you get shown, once you get told, once that feeling of that seed is there, okay, it's going to fester, and it's going to build, 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 and it's not going to come out in wrath. It's going to go, oh, now I know exactly what I'm doing. Thank you so much, Melissa, for your donation. You cannot anchor in the light if you're still being entertained by the counterfeit. I'm going to say that one more time. We cannot anchor in the light if you're still being entertained by the counterfeit. The counterfeit. The fear, the oppression, the neglection, all of that. Because the divine of my understanding, I'm not living in Delulu or woo-woo land. I just understand the biblical context from a different place, from a different space. Okay? And so I just understand that these are cycles. I just understand that the cycle can no longer recycle. And funny enough, today, I jumped on live today at 919. Thanks for that remembrance. You guys are in the places and the spaces of identifying the difference. I can't tell you what the difference is for you. Because in my native background, in my shamanic practices, I don't tell anybody. I don't feed anybody. I literally message through what is coming to them. And then the divine has me step away. You guys get to have your realizations. You get to figure it out for yourself, because I lead. I teach. I give you all those pieces that you may need in order to receive what it is that you need to receive to move into the next step. You cannot anchor in the light if you're still entertained by the counterfeit. You'll figure out what the counterfeit is for you. Because it doesn't matter what way or what wave you step into. It doesn't matter if you believe that it's a mothership that's going to come and pick you up. It doesn't matter if you believe that the world is going to end and it's the demise and all hell's breaking loose. It doesn't matter if you believe that it's a transcendence to another higher space and time based upon levels of consciousness and understanding. It doesn't matter if you believe that it's Jesus Christ himself coming back and judging the living and the dead. Everybody is going to get what they need based upon their perception of what they're able to receive in order to move them to a higher reflection. Just exactly like the soul evolution process for every soul on here. How many of you guys said, I have had countless of people come to me and go, I'm not doing this again. I'm not coming back again. I'm not doing it again. My soul is older than time itself. Congratulations, most people in this room are older than Google. You're born before 1998, you're older than Google. Congratulations, okay? You are of a different time frame, of a different understanding. It's not gonna fit right now. But the point is that you're coming from a higher understanding, not trying to prove a point. Because why? It's exactly what God told me. God surrounded you around a bunch of dreamers, but yet they're non-believers. In order for them to become receivers, God's going to show them. God's going to show them. So why do you have to prove any point? You don't. So it's not about combating the energy of what somebody else believes or perceives, because that is going to breed more egotism, more pride, more falsehood, and more greed. All you need to do is step away and go, okay, you know what you know. You do as you do. What they perceive is going to happen might become their reality. But the reason that you connect with something bigger, something higher, it's because it's inside. You've opened that up inside of you. You've asked for that. You are in a different understanding of transition, of what Jesus of the Christ was, of what becoming means. You're all becoming. What are you becoming? The truest of authenticity of your eternal identity. Not one piece, not one fragment, not one belief. Those things are a one piece, one fragment. The people that believe that the mothership is going to come back and take them to a higher space of reality, that's one fragment of their soul. The others that believe that this is going to happen, that's one fragment of their soul. Why? Because it's already happened. The Bible has played out time and time again. That's why all these things are coming back up again, and you're seeing yourself in parallel timelines, parallel realities. It's all happening now. It's omnipresent. It's just happening in different modern ways. So it doesn't matter what they believe. That's one piece, that's one part of their soul. You're whole. You have the understanding, the understanding, and the overstanding of what truly the divine is in this etherical understanding of the becoming of the Christ. It's inside. And you're being put into these places and in these spaces for God to shine its light through you. For those people that are dreamers but non-believers, so that they can become receivers. And how do they become receivers? Is because you've blessed them to become receivers. Not because you've done it, but because God's done it through you. What do they get to receive? The receiving of the blessing of being able to feel God is real, because they didn't believe you. Which means when they didn't believe you, they didn't believe God. And when they defile the word or what you see or what you told them, then God has no other choice but to show them. That's why it's been so much that you don't have to prove anything. You're being moved in these places to disrupt these things, not on purpose, not out of pride, but out of what you have and hold inside. And you cannot negotiate your gifts or neglect them any longer, with all due respect, because the energy that is present is getting you to move in those things. So those of you, remember a long time ago when you probably all heard on this app like a year, 2 years ago, oh, God is taking the first last and the last first. How many times have you heard that year after year? It's a repeat. If you understand the energy that's happening of the peak, you understand that. But now you have a higher elevation, a higher way of seeing, a higher way of feeling, a higher way of believing. And each one in their own due time is going to understand what the transcendence is and what they have and hold inside. You are not going to be in those specific timelines. Why? Because you can't perceive it in your reality. And if you can't perceive it in your reality, then you can't believe it, which means you can't connect to it. So what God is doing is connecting you guys to the highest timelines of the divine authority, of the transcendence, because you understand what's going on as a whole. Okay, God is gathering the remnants, not the influencers. It's all coexisting at one time. Those of you that think that a lot of people, a lot of creators, and I use the word creators because we're all creators. We all create our own reality. We all intertwine the authenticity of the, divinity of what's coming through and what we're ascending to in that process. So there's a lot of creators, that are not in the place of the understanding of what you may see. So I was always told, for those that align with me and come into connection with me in the frequency in which I emanate in that process, they have an understanding that they're going to see a lot of things but not be a part of those things. Okay? And so heaven is looking for anchors, not performers. And you're here to anchor in what it is between. When that energy from the sun hits Gaia, you're the anchor between that and the Schumann. You're anchoring that in. So these are not celestial things. These are remembrances. These are activations. Knowledges and wisdoms. Remember when you always were reaching for it outside of you? You're not reaching for it outside of you anymore. It's here. It's inside of you. Because you don't have to. And I don't mean that it's that easy, because it's not. For those that understand that, they understand the mental, the physical, the emotional, and the spiritual work that it took them to get there. But not just the spiritual work, the human work. The human work. Because we chose to come here to elevate this frequency in this paradigm on this level. And so you not just had to fight through what people call a matrix, but a human experience, but a spiritual experience at the same time. Now the spiritual and the human experiences is merging, and this is that 4D, 5D consciousness that everybody is speaking of. So when a lot of people move into that 4D consciousness, you're still going to have body. It's just that you're going to be way more open and way more reflective of the energies and the elements that you have the capability of working with, okay? And you've got to learn those things and all of that. So, like I said, you guys are a different breed. You're a different understanding. And like I said before, you're not here for the algorithm. You were chosen for the altar. And that is completely different than what you're seeing and what you're dealing with against that resistance. Because you can't tell me not each and every one of you open up TikTok and you try and you scroll through like 3 videos and you're like, and then you just don't even do it anymore. The energy is not the same. It's completely different. I don't know why. I just totally look like I turned purple. But I totally just look like I turned purple. Anyway, we're changing colors now. Cool. So, you are in a... We're just having all sorts of fun with colors. Well, thank you. So, you are literally in these places and spaces where you see these things and you can't reflect what it feels. It doesn't feel right. Alright, and so if you don't catch me here, catch me over on YouTube, and if you need anything from me, I will be available in the background as well, as things change and move. Alright, you guys are meant for more. There's going to be a lot that is changing. You are anchoring that in. It's the age of Aquarius. It's all of that. You guys are the revealing. See, to be prophetic is not to just predict. It's to pierce through. And what are you piercing through? You're not just an influencer. You're an intercessor. There's a difference. Right? So, being a prophetic is not just about prediction. It's about piercing through the narrative and the directive. Because when the divine uses prophetic to speak to you, it doesn't speak to you, it speaks to your soul. You feel it through you. You feel the reverberation, the frequency, the word, not from here. You're code carriers, not crowd pleasers. You're code carriers. You're not here to follow the algorithm or the narrative or the directive. You're here to be different, do it differently. And I know that sounds like something stupid in a separation, but it's the understanding of your reverberation and reflection of what you are in your authenticity. So as you find it kind of hard to move through these times, understand that you're connecting more with the flow of the authenticity of what you know and what you're commanding in your life, rather than a place of demanding or hoping or wishing. You're in a place of working with a higher mind. You're working with universal energies. And when you work with the threads of the universal consciousness, you're on a different level of understanding and understanding. And so it's like you're past the ancestral workings, you're past the archangel workings, you're past the interstellar workings. You're like, yeah, been there, done that. Now you're working with the wholeness, the universal energies. The universal energies of what Yeshua and the divine are truly connected to. Not just the heavens, but the earth. The heavens and the earth are going to create a new birth, a new frequency, a new paradigm. Step into tangible practices. Step into things that will help elevate you through these times, that will help those that are being brought to you. A lot of you are being asked to really put time, energy, effort into your own businesses and so on and so forth. Or how are you going to help people? Well, the questioning necessarily isn't necessarily the how, because you'll be directed naturally into the how. It's more about the passion and the intention that you bring to it. Because it could be you have a lunch date with a girlfriend and that's the how. It could be that you bump into somebody on the street. That's the how. You never know necessarily the how. You're going to be divinely led into the how. Okay? Melissa McGuire. Ooh. Okay, this is beautiful. You've taken a lot of time to reflect upon your mishappenings, your misfortunes, and your neglect. And it's not because you're in a lower space, it's because you've understood the evolution of your place. And now you are in a place of receiving. There's a lot of peace, there's a lot of believing, there's a lot of receiving that's happening. I don't know why, but I just have to tell you what I see. So I do see a little shop that you're in, and I don't know if this is your shop or if this is something that you're wanting to manifest, or a shop that you work at, but they show me you at some type of shop. There's this seed that's been jumping up inside of you, but you haven't taken heed to the messages. It's like sometimes you would receive a message and you would forget about that, and you couldn't move forward because you didn't do the last thing that was the message that was brought through to you. So it was like you would receive word, or you would receive message, and then you would take a few steps forward, and then nothing would open up for you. And then until you realize that you went backwards to go forwards is when things opened up for you. There is a lot of release that you've been going through over the last 2 weeks. And when I say release, release about yourself. Thoughts about self. Things that you thought you were going to do. Things that you thought you were supposed to do. The ways that you thought you had to do things. All of those. And one thing that I work with my mentees on is when I start to work with them, we go to a space of, I used to think this, okay, but now I believe that, right? Or I used to believe this, and now I think that. Because you're changing the programming. So they're showing me there's been a lot of programs changed, Melissa, inside your brain, and there's been new neuron pathways. Now, in one form or fashion, you come from the past, from addiction, right? Whether it be alcohol, whether it be shopping, whether it be addicted to gossip, addicted to those things. And so those patternized behaviors are places and spaces not only that you have to come from with mental conquering, but to feed the nature of that aspect on an emotional level. Where is that reflection upon the devil, quote unquote, energy of temptation within you, within your soul, that you have to deliver yourself from in order to receive? That's what they're showing me that you've been working through as the whole here, Melissa. So that has been a huge thing that you have overcome. And sometimes when we are in those places where we ask God or we ask the divine what our next step is, and we receive word of that next step, and then we take a couple of steps in that obedience, but then we're like, something should have happened by now. Why hasn't something happened by now? Well, because you didn't do that last piece that God asked you to do. And so you kind of have to sometimes go backwards in order to go forwards to see. But these things, I want you to understand, Miss Melissa, these tests are God's testimony. It's your story, God's glory. So your trials, your tribulations, mixed with the spiritual ability to see what you see, feel what you feel, have the connection of the divine working through you, this is how you are going to work with others in a way to help others heal. You don't need to know the how. You just need to understand and know that this seed in which is building up out of you in order for you to pour out onto others, okay, is where it's coming up respectively in what you're getting ready to do. Whatever that shop, whatever that vision was in that space for you, it's something that you are moving into consideration of doing to touch others, to work with others, to allow the divine to work through you. There's a big difference between somebody being anointed and carrying the anointing. There's a big difference in that aspect, and you guys are starting to really enact those things as believers, as receivers, as understanding of the divine Christ within and without. So there is a lot that you are moving into and through with that, Miss Melissa. Okay? Now, Melissa, with all due respect, the generational aspect of the womb, there's a beautiful class that I teach, and it's called Armed and Anointed. And the reason I love this class so much is because of the fact, and it's beautiful because what God was doing through me and showing me is not only the physical aspects, okay, of the spiritual war, but the spiritual aspects of the physical war backwards. I've always worked backwards since the day I was born. And in that reflection of the understanding here, of the trials and the tribulations that I went through for God to use me the way that God is asking me to be used. My story is all over the place, man. My story is completely God's glory. All right. And it's all over the place. It's on other people's podcasts, Spotify's. It's on my YouTube. It's all over the place. All right. And we'll get back into that at some point in time in the day. Not today. But the point and the fact is that when you go through these spaces in these places, Melissa, you don't know the how, the why, the understanding of why you're going to be used the way you're going to be used. But the point is that you are trying to do something in that reflection of obedience. And there is a generational thing here. And that generational thing, okay, sits in the womb. Now, men carry sacral energy too. But it's very different for women. Because the womb is the spark of creation. It's the physical reverberation of the universe. Physically, inside. And there is a lot of trauma. Not just from this lifetime. From past lifetimes. From all things, in all generations, in all timelines, in all reverberations. And a lot of those times, you don't even know why you feel the way you feel. You just know you feel that way. But when the sacral womb is unhealed in many different ways, it doesn't just come in one way, sweetheart. What happens is then that's the attack. The attack on the sacral womb, the spiritual attack, the physical attack. Because we have and we hold everything there. We are the transmuters for our family, for the collective, for the divine. This is one of the reasons that women actually have menstrual cycles, is because we are clearing out the energy, not only of the collective, but of the home and of our bodies and of the narrative and directive. That sacral womb that you have and you hold gets attacked, and it gets attacked very differently in women than it does men. Men get very much so attacked in the sacral, just in different ways in reflection. And so you've had to come through those spaces, yes, and those places. And what you've had to do is deal with things. The wolf pack's going off in the background, so sorry if you hear that. But when you are in those spaces and places of breaking those generational wounds, right? You break those generational wounds and you understand how they presented in your life. You also understand that you're breaking and healing, as people say in the spiritual world, the generation after you and the generation behind you. So there's a lot that you have been doing, that you have been brewing through, is what's being said, and what's been consuming you. And these are some big breakthroughs that are coming for you in your sovereignty, in your understanding, in your divine femininity. And there's a lot that you have held yourself back from, for one fashion, reason, or another. It doesn't mean that they're good or bad reasons. It just means that there was reasons and you had your reasons. Now your soul is in a whole new elevation of contract to actually do, have, and hold what you are being asked to bring through. Okay? There's a lot. It's really cool because they show me evolution of you. And they show me evolution sometimes in multiple different ways, but for you personally, they showed me evolution in a very light way. And what I mean in a light way is they showed me you working with ancestors and generations, right? And then they show me you working with archangels. And then they show me you working with interstellar beings. And then they show me you working with ascended masters. And then they show me you working in reflection with the divine and the divine Sophia and the energy of the matriarchal system in which was always here. And so you have been elevating through that process within your own paradigm. Okay. What's going on, Christy? How are you, dear? I'll get you on the schedule for your healing most definitely when you come back. All right. From your little trip. All right. You guys take care of yourselves. Hey, Bumblebee. What's up, lady? Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I appreciate each and every one of you.